This is the French protectorate. This was given to France. One of the first things that the French did was to quite literally create a new country that they called Lebanon. Sorry, all Lebanese brothers and sisters, but you should know your country is very recent and it was created by the French for the Christian Arabs. The French wanted to reward the Christian Arabs for having helped them out in World War I. And the first thing that they did, they said, let's divide this land into a number of different lands. Let's give it a Sunni land, a Christian land, an Alawi land, a Druzi land. This was a proposition. This was a proposition. There were different theologies over there. And of the first things that they successfully did, they carved out Lebanon. And they made it for the first time in human history a separate country. And they said, okay, this is now for the Maronite Christians. Now, obviously, it didn't turn out that way. Eventually, Lebanon became a multicultural land. But it was meant to be only for the Maronites. And there was also talk, as you see on your chart, of a separate Druzi state at the bottom. It was called the Jabal al-Duruz state. And on the upper left, the Alawi state. Right? They wanted to give a separate land for the Alawis. Now, what else did the French do? The French ruled over this land for around 20, 30 years till World War II. Then the Syrians revolted and kicked the French out. And then they went their separate ways. But during French control, they wanted to find a group that could be loyal to them against the Sunni majority. And so they came across the Alawis. And the Alawis, up until that point in time, had been barbarians. I should say they still are, some of them. But up until that point in time, they had been quite literally uneducated. When I say barbarians, I mean it. Uneducated, illiterate, raiding. If you look at history books, what were the Alawis known for? Raiding Sunni property, killing their men and women, sometimes raping, and then taking their property. And the Sunnis were scared of them because of their ferocity. They lived in the mountains. They had their own separate land and their own separate land, meaning, area and whatnot. And that was the case. When the French came, they recruited the Alawis for the first time, sending schools, educating them, and giving them a lot of military positions. Why? As we explained why. They wanted a group that they could trust against the Sunnis. And so the Alawis were civilized, if you like, by the French. And it is not a coincidence, 30 years after the French left, that the Alawi now comes to power, Hafiz al-Assad, from the military. Had it not been for the French, the Alawis wouldn't be in the percentage they are in the military. Had it not been for the French, the Alawis would not have that education, would not be in the army, would not have become generals, and so Hafiz al-Assad and now his son Bashar al-Assad are a direct consequence of the French's basically helping the Alawis in the 1920s onwards. This is what happened in this region.